Hi, I'm Donna Davis here with Richard Cole, the founder of Cole's Wild Bird Products, and we are going to be answering, well, Richard's going to be answering your questions. We've got a lot of exciting things to tell you about today on the show. You could win $500 worth of Cole's products. That's just one of our topics today.
That's too much. We're going to go broke.
I think you'll survive.
You think we will? Okay.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the topics we're going to cover today, Richard.
Well, it's February, and it's cold, but February has two important things, and one of them is National Bird Feeding Month, and that came about in 1994 when I think John Porter, a Republican from Illinois, came up with this as a resolution, and they read it into the congressional minutes, and it became official that February is National Bird Feeding Month everywhere in the United States. And there's a lot of good reasons to feed the birds, and I thought he did a great job in his resolution talking about what the good reasons to feed wild birds are. I'm not going to read the resolution here. It's not very long, but I'm going to give everybody a homework assignment. Look this up, Google it, and under Wikipedia is a good place to look, and look up National Bird Feeding Month, and you'll find out you'll be able to read the resolution. It's just got a lot of great reasons to feed the wild birds. And so February is National Wild Bird Feeding Month.
Yeah, and in celebration of that, do you want to lead in with our contest that we've got, our really exciting contest?
Let's do it.
Okay, so Alex, you can show the graphic. This is a big one. We have a video contest going on. More than $500 worth of Cole's products. Now this one works a lot like the photo contest, as you're just uploading a video rather than a photo. And your video can be short, it can be up to 1.5 minutes, but there's no real time limit, you just up to 1.5 minutes. And tell us your genuine Cole's story. We're looking for creativity and sincerity, and look at all those amazing products that you can win. We also want you to tell us why you love Cole's and any particular product that you really, really love. And you can go to the website. You'll see a button on our homepage, coleswildbird.com, and then click that button. You'll see all the contest details. We're going to pick the top 10. We're going to pick People's Choice and then a main winner. And do you want to show, we want you to see it's easy. Don't overthink it. Don't think professional. We just want you to shoot it on your cell phone and just be very genuine and sincere and tell us your Cole story. So we have an example of what we want to show you. So this is where my husband and I always sit every morning and we watch our birds, and we have Coles in all of our feeders. And my Cole story began about 8 years ago when a couple of geese decided to come to our yard, and they were going to everybody else's yard. We went out and got some Coles cracked corn to be able to feed them, and they kept coming, and so we bought more Coles products, and we put up bird feeders, and now we have bird houses. So we sit out here and enjoy our coffee and watch the birds, and I particularly love Blue Ribbon Blend Suet, and I love suet for attracting all the woodpeckers, but this gets all types of birds, and we have tons of cardinals and bluebirds and goldfinches in our yard, and bird feeding is one of my very favorite things. So I'm so happy that I found Cole's, and it's been a great product for me. And feel free to just ask a question about anything that you might want to know, and put in where you're watching from, like whatever city you're in our comments below. Ask your questions in the comments below. If you have a question about the contest, just ask us. But I just wanted you to see, it's very simple. Don't overthink it. Just send us a really great, genuine story about Cole's. And anything you want to say about the contest, Richard?
No, I think that's important. Just don't overanalyze it. Don't try to make it a professional movie. Just show us what you think about some of these products, and give us some of your stories about using Cole's in your backyard.
Now, are the Cole's suet kibbles, are those one of your favorite products, Richard?
Absolutely. Just so happens.
Just so happens you have some Cole's
right
suet
here.
kibble.
And we're talking about, we mentioned February is National Bird Feeding Month. It's also, and guys, pay close attention to this, about 1 week, and it's Valentine's Day. You're going to need to have Valentine's presents, and trust me, you'll want to do this. A bird feeder and bird seed, it makes a really, really great gift for Valentine's Day. And in addition to that, you might want to give your birds something. Your little bird buddies out there, give them a little Valentine's present too. And this is one of the reasons I brought this, is because it's Cole's suet kibbles. I can't think of a better product to put out for your bird buddies at this time of year. This is a high-fat, high-energy food, and they absolutely love it. The reason I thought about it and brought it is because my birds are going through this like crazy. I have it, of course, in a Bountiful bowl, which is an open feeder with a cover over top, made by Cole's. Throw this in there, and the birds are in and out of it constantly all day long, because this is the kind of food they really want, and a lot of birds can eat this because it's a soft suet pellet as opposed to a hard shell seed. So you'll find a lot of the birds coming to it that wouldn't normally eat bird seed. So good Valentine's present for your bird buddies, and a feeder and some bird seed
for your sweetheart.
For your sweetheart, absolutely.
That's a great
and guys, this will
idea.
keep you out of trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, it will. And so talking about some of it, just real quick, talking about the fact that it's so cold outside in February, and it may not be where you are right now, it may not be cold, but this is a tough time in the year for birds, right?
It is a tough time, and hence the National Bird Feeding Month was a great time. One of the reasons they want to do that, and I've been using the term just when they need it the most for a long time. The food stores that were out there naturally, all the berries and things and weed seeds that were there in the fall, slowly diminished now. And there's not as many, it's a little harder for them to eat. And just about February, and maybe a little bit later as you move further north, it's time for breeding season. And like I said, we will mention this in a minute, they're getting ready for it now. They're tuning up their vocals. I heard a toy singing, I've heard a wren singing already in a territory. But they need food now. It's very little food. They're setting up their territories. And as we move into March, late March, especially early April, breeding will be well underway. And then there'll be some young out, and there's still not a lot of food yet. So in this February, March is just when they need it the most. If you're going to supplement the feeding, great time to do it. Do it all year for the fun of it. But they really can use their help this time of year. And that ties really well into the bird feeding months, because one of their talks in the thing, and go read it, of course, is about it helps the birds through this critical time. And the birds in return, their main diet is weed seeds and insects, which helps the environment, helps us in the long run. So give them a little extra stuff to keep them going, and they'll return the favor.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was such a good time, February. I also think of insects. There's no berries, but there's also very few insects this time of year, right?
It's getting harder and harder for them this time of year. I'm glad I'm not a bird in February and March.
I know. I try to make sure that we're all stocked up on food and at this time of year especially. But so tell us why, so say you went to Valentine's and you got your Valentine, a new feeder. What do you expect? And give people some realistic expectations about how long that might take.
Well, two different things. If you are currently feeding the birds, or the person you're giving the feeder and feed to are feeding the birds, it's going to be a little quicker because the birds are used to coming around for food. And the other scenario is if they've never put out a bird feeder before. Remember, any change to a bird is something it takes them a while to get used to. You can put out a feeder. If you have a feeder now and you change it, it's a whole different looking feeder. They'll come to it, they'll be a little hesitant, but they'll get it pretty quickly. If you put a new feeder in a different location or move their old feeder to another location, it's going to take them a while. They'll come and look where it used to be,
I know,
and it'll take them a while to catch on. And if you're adding a new feeder, it'll take them a little while to catch on. If you've never fed before, it's going to take a really long time.
It really
sometimes.
does, yeah.
I've seen it happen in just a day or two, or even that afternoon. But in general, give it a couple of weeks before you see a lot of activity. They're not used to it. Another thing some people don't think about is when you change seed, so you change the look of what's in the feeder, sometimes you'll see the birds be very hesitant about that. They just don't like change. And if you go from, say, sunflower in the shell that's dark to pure sun meats, which is a wonderful food, and it's light color, they'll be hesitant about coming to it. They'll catch on pretty quickly, but just don't be surprised by they're not showing up really quickly or in great numbers early. Give them a little bit of time.
Yeah, and Yeah, you really have to be patient with that. And you're so excited. You want to go get that feeder and put it up, and you can't wait to see them all flock to it. But yeah, it does take longer than you want. So we're so happy to have the people who've joined us, and we've gotten a couple of shares, and we really appreciate you guys sharing. And we'd love to see your comments, even if you just comment about, what city you're in as you're watching this. But any questions that you have, this is the resident expert on all things about birding. So please take advantage. So let's talk about expect everyone to see a slowdown in the feeders right now, right?
Yeah, like there's 2 times of the year. I call it the fall slowdown, when there's abundant food out there. All the berries and all the weed seeds are ripe in the fall, and so the birds have a lot of natural food to eat. Insects are very abundant. Spiders are everywhere. That's what they're eating. So they'll tend not to come to your feeders as often in the fall. Then it gets busy again, but then we get down toward this breeding season, like I said, which starts as early as late February, early March in the south, and in the warmer climates, they'll start pairing off. And a little later further north, but the same thing will happen. And what's really happening is the males will stake out a territory, and what they'll perceive as being a good area around that they can find abundant food to support their brood that the female's going to have. And they'll sing and say, "This is mine, don't come around here." And that's why you hear so many males singing in the springtime, because they're establishing their territory. The other part of their establishing their territory is keep the other birds out of it, to preserve their food stores for their family. So you'll see some birds just won't be getting to your feeder as often. Instead of having 10 or 12 chickadees coming in and out all the time, you'll be down to very few of the ones that can sneak in and out real quickly, because they'll be moved out of that territory, and they'll be going to establish their own territories. So you'll just see this slow down. It's to be expected. Don't worry about it, because the bonanza's coming after the first broods are out, and all of a sudden there's 3 times more birds than there were before. Then they'll all come to the feeders. The territories will break down somewhat, and you'll see a lot more birds.
Yeah, well, but for right now, just expect the slowdown. So what else have you got there for us? Is there anything we missed? Songbirds in the south, they're already singing.
That's an interesting thing, too, when they start singing. You hear some chirping and peeping during the year, but as spring comes in, you'll hear a lot more of it. And I do recommend just take a moment or two here and there and go out and just listen. When you hear a couple of things, just stop, get quiet, go out on your back porch and just listen to them singing. You'll hear them coming from different directions, and you'll hear different songs. Learning to identify a bird by sight is one thing, but you can also learn to identify birds by sound, and you can identify a lot more birds that you can't even see. But you hear the sound, you recognize it. There's audio tapes available. There's a lot of things online about birding by ear. It's a good way to call it.
Yeah.
And some people are very good at it.
I bet you are.
No, I'm not.
No?
No, I'm not very good at it. I can repeat a lot of bird sounds, but when I hear them out in the wild, I don't know them that well. My wife, Nancy, knows them very well. And she'll say, "Oh, that's a so-and-so," or, "Yep, did you hear that?" "Well, I heard it, but I can't remember what it is."
Yeah.
So some people are good at it. Some people aren't. And I do really well visually, but not so much the hearing. So give it a try. Go out and listen for a while. If nothing else, just to listen to them. It's kind of neat in the springtime.
Yeah, it really is. And another thing that we want to mention is that you were talking about getting things online. You can get a Cole's calendar, this beautiful calendar, so many great pictures. And our Cole's fans actually took these pictures in the photo contest, and these are all pictures that were taken by our Cole's fans and submitted in our contest, and they're all in one place. And it's one of the most beautiful seasonal calendars that I've ever seen. I just think that birds reflect the seasons so beautifully. And so these are on sale online. They're also at some retailers, right?
Yes, they are. Several of the bird stores carry it, and other places you can find it, but certainly you can find it online.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, I use that calendar myself. I'm pretty picky about things, especially bird pictures and things.
Yeah.
And I like the calendar, not to boast about it too much, but boy, everybody's done such a good job, and our customers did such a great job and took some great pictures, and not necessarily, they're not professional photographers, but
But you wouldn't know it.
You wouldn't know it. They're just beautiful pictures, and it's worth it
Yeah.
just for the pictures.
Yeah, I don't mind bragging about this because it really is the work of our Coles fans,
Yes.
which is so amazing, and they are just so good and so talented, and we're so thrilled to have this gorgeous calendar. So I think it's okay for you to brag.
It's okay. Yeah, we have great customers.
Since we're bragging on what other people are doing. So let's talk one more time about reminding people about the contest that we have coming up. So we have a video contest. Submit your videos. Over 500, and Coles has never done this before, over $500 value. And let's just go through these really quickly. So you get a 5-pound bag of each Blazing Hot blend, Blue Ribbon blend, Cajun Cardinal, cracked corn, Critter Munchies, Finch Friends, hot meats, Niger seed, nutberry suet blend, safflower, raw peanuts, special feeders, sunflower meats, whole peanuts, oil sunflower, white millet, dried mealworms, suet kibbles, flaming squirrel seed sauce, special feeder, suet blend, then the suet hot meats, suet natural peanut suet, hot meat suet, natural peanut suet, terrific tube feeder, which that's an awesome feeder, right?
It is.
We've shown that one, and that is a great feeder. Real easy to clean, easy to take apart. The Mighty Mesh feeder, the Nifty Niger feeder, and the Hummer High Rise, as well as the Bountiful Bowl, and your very own Tough Bird feeder guards. That's
Oh my goodness.
that's a ton of price. Can you imagine, like, the birds that live in that backyard are going to be like, what?
Can I enter?
No, you're not
I'd
eligible.
like to win that.
You are not
Oh, my.
eligible, Richard Cole, but you are all eligible to enter. So we want you to go to the coleswildbird.com homepage of the website, and then just click a button. It's right on the homepage, and it'll take you to the page that you can enter. All the contest rules are there. It's just a simple, up to a minute and a half video that's really just tells your unique Kohl's story. How did you start using it? Why do you love Kohl's? What are some of your favorite products? So if you have questions, I know that a few people are watching online, go ahead. Oh, we do have a comment here. And if you see me looking down here, that's because my computer is right over here. So Colleen says, I added a new feeder in our backyard and had a question about how long it would take our bird friends to adjust. And she says, you answered before I even asked. Thanks for the helpful information. And then
That worked out
Kathy,
well.
Yeah, it did. And so, it does. It can be disappointing, though, because you're waiting. You're like, I've got the best food. I've got all these feeders. I wanted to feed you guys. Why don't you want to eat my food?
We've heard so many times, though, over the years that somebody says, well, I just put special feeder in, and now the birds won't eat it. Something's wrong with it. No, it's just that it's something changed, and the birds take a little while to get
And
used to
the
it.
worst thing you can do is say, well, maybe they don't like that. Let
Yeah.
me put something else in it, because that you keep changing on them,
Yep.
and you've got to just stick with something. Like you said, they don't like change. So Kathy says your feeders are definitely easy to clean. Love them. Yeah, they are. I love that. You can just pop the bottom off and clean them easily. So thank you. Thanks, you guys. We appreciate your participation. And remember, we're here every first Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So that's a great time to ask your questions.
And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And
Well,
enter
yeah,
that contest.
Yeah, we've still got
Yeah.
a few more minutes left. So any other topics that you wanted to talk about today?
Well, I mentioned very briefly about the birds singing, and I would recommend. I also mentioned if you give somebody their Valentine present of a feeder and all, make sure that they understand they have your permission to go out and take a few breaks during the day, and just take 5 minutes, go out on your back porch or a quiet place, and just stop, watch the feeders, listen to the birds, and especially listen to those songs of springtime. You won't hear them too long, just in the springtime. And it's just a wonderful thing. It's nature, and it's going on right there around you, and just stop and observe it for a while.
I know, I find that happens. I work from home, and I'll be in the middle of something, that's just tedious or whatever, and I have to get up and take the dogs out. So I go outside, and then, I'll see the birds out there, and it's just such a nice, refreshing break to take you away from all the other things that you might be thinking about, just to go out to that world for a little bit.
It's always a nice thing to do, and it's relaxing. It'll help you get back and do work a little better because you'll be in a good mood.
Yeah. And since this is February and people might be for the first time going out and getting a feeder, tell us a little bit about where you should place those feeders, because where you place feeders in your yard is a really big thing.
It's important. The main thing is to put them where you will actually see the birds on the feeder easily. But if you have an office and you've got a little window you can look out, make sure that the bird feeder is right over where you can see it. If you have it directly out from the window, put it close. If you do not want a feeder, say 8 to 12 feet out, excuse me, from the center of the window, because you encourage bird hits. They see something, they spook a hawk or something in the yard or a loud noise, and they look at the window and they'll see the reflection, not in color, it doesn't matter to them, and they'll fly toward the trees they see in the window. If the feeder is off at an angle from the window, they may still hit it, but it'll be a glancing blow, generally won't do any harm to them. So don't have a feeder directly out, say 6 to 12 feet out from a window. Just put it at an angle, or bring it in fairly close, 2 or 3 feet from the window, and you won't have a problem there either, and the birds will be really close. But put a feeder where you can see it. Make sure that it's not in a place where right under the feeder, if the seeds drop, a cat or another predator may be able to get to the birds easily. If it's bushes real close, move the feeder out a little bit so it'll be a little more in the open. But have the top of the feeder not too far from bushes and trees for the birds to run to for shelter in case there is a predator like a hawk coming through. They can quickly get into an area where there's a lot of limbs will stop the hawk. So that's it. Just be aware where you put the feeder. Put it so you can see it. And don't put it where there's bushes right under it. But have it so it's at least within 5 or 10 feet from some bushes or good dense tree limbs that the birds can hide in or run to for safety.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch that too. We did a little research before, we got our feeders and put them right next to these trees. And it really is funny. You see a hawk come through and they go right into those trees, and they very quickly all just run to the trees. And it's funny. I love to watch nature because I think, you've always heard that like people just will do what everybody else is doing, right? Like we're like sheep. We just follow whatever. So you'll see a bird just fly off into the trees, right? And then all the rest of them do. And I think that's that's such an interesting thing about nature. They don't have to know what caused it to fly, but they know if it's flying, they better get out of there too. And I think we're still that way a little bit. Like people, we follow the herd.
Follow the herd.
Yeah, you may not see the danger, but if you see everybody else running, you'll run too.
That does happen a lot in the bird world. We hear complaints a lot of times about blue jays. Oh, they're gregarious, they're noisy, they're a lot of trouble. But they're one of what we call an alarm bird, and they're usually on the lookout. They've got a good voice, and they'll make an alarm call. And you'll notice that sometimes the birds just all take off at once. It's because one of these birds has made an alarm call, and they know, get out of there. They don't speak the same language, but they understand that. The other thing you'll notice about these birds doing things together is you won't have anybody on your feeder. Then all of a sudden, everybody shows up.
You're right.
Chickadees,
Yes,
titmice,
absolutely.
nuthatches, the woodpecker comes by. So, wait a minute. Did they set their clock? No, they kind of follow each other around through the woods. There's safety in numbers. And some of this herd mentality, or it's protection because they can see what's going on. They may find some food because another bird found some food. But it's interesting to watch these little mini flocks of mixed birds come in and hit your feeders at the same time, like it's lunchtime or something. Look at their watch. Yep, it's time to eat. But they're following each other around in these groups.
And I must admit that I probably have been guilty of being one of those people who thinks like, well, do they always feed at 7:30? But I think that's what it is. And that once a few start coming, then you see a few more, and then they're fighting each other over the places at the bird feeder. And then you think like, well, why wouldn't you come at a time when nobody's here? You can get a prime spot,
Yeah. You'll
That's
see some
really
here and there, but yeah, they do
interesting.
follow each other around, and there are in these loose groups of birds. You'll see less of that at breeding time, of course, because they're trying to keep everybody else away, and it will slow down then, but you'll still see a little bit of it.
Yeah, that is really, I think that children and everyone really, it's not just children, but I think it would have been great as a child to sort of learn those things and when you watch nature.
Yeah.
And I do find that really fascinating that they alert each other. And you see crows do that too.
Yes.
Crows will let you know, hey, there's a hawk, and then all the doves will fly up as soon as they're crows. And why do they do it? Like, what good does it do them to sort of alert everyone?
That's a good question. I have no idea. I have no idea. They just do it. They may do it for the other jays, or they may just do it to protect everybody. Maybe there's some camaraderie there.
It
We
certainly
don't know. Yeah.
looks that way.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen when there's a hawk like trying to fly through somewhere, one crow will come and kind of attack the hawk, and then another one will come and they'll start yelling for each other almost, and you'll see 4 or 5 crows chase a hawk out of the territory.
And that's a good way to find hawks sometimes, or owls in the daytime. You'll hear the crows mobbing. You'll hear this gregarious sound of 5 or 10 crows maybe, all hollering at once. And look for where you'll see them circling around overhead above a tree top. Look very carefully. Get your binoculars, look in that tree. You'll find a hawk or an owl will be in that tree, and they're mobbing it.
Now,
And,
are they wanting to get that hawk out because it's a danger to their young?
Could be, or their young, their nest, or maybe even themselves. Or they just don't like hawks.
No, they don't.
But they will mob it, and it's a good way to find some of these birds in the daytime when you would normally never see them.
Yeah.
But watch where the crows go, and
Yeah.
watch where they're laying in the top of the tree and they're diving at the top of the tree. Just look up in that tree. You're going to find a hawk or an owl up there every time.
Well, I tell you something. I do think all the time about. I'm always so scared. Like sometimes a hawk will come and sit on our roof watching the birds, right, at the feeder, and I always want to chase it. But I also feel sad for the hawk because what a tough life they have.
Yes.
Imagine having to kill something every time you wanted to
Yeah,
eat.
yeah. Well,
That's a. And then the crows are chasing you out. You know.
it's and people get really upset at hawks.
They just
And,
want to live.
They're a bird also, and it's just the way nature works. We may not like what they
Right.
do, and we can even, as it's not unfair to fix your feeder so it makes it real hard for a hawk to catch a bird.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But then again, you don't want to set up a bird buffet for the hawks either. So
Right.
Placement's critical. Like I said, make sure there's some cover close by they can get to, but be prepared that occasionally the hawk is going to
Yes.
catch a bird.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's always worked. They're going to catch a bird whether you're out there or not. But just do your feeders correctly and just understand that that's going to happen and it's part of nature, and the hawk got to eat.
Yeah. I can't imagine having to kill something every time you wanted a meal, but so they have a tough life too. So we've only got about 3 minutes. It's always fascinating with you, Richard. I always learn something, and I hope you guys continue to watch every Wednesday, every first Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock, and take advantage of Richard's lifetime of knowledge with wild birds, and ask him your questions. And one more time, let's go over a little bit about the video contest. Do you want to mention it?
I want to mention
go
one
through
thing
it?
and then we'll hit that real
Okay.
quick. I'll say it again. It's time to fix your bird feeders. Your bird houses. If you haven't done it already, get out there, clean out the old nest from last year in case there's any overwintering parasites in there. Just get it ready for the brood. They're about to start putting nesting material in there soon, and just go ahead and get it done right now so you'll be ready for this time. You don't want them to start to put a nest on top of the old one in 3 or 4 weeks. So go get that done.
Last time you were here, you talked about this, right? And just how to clean them and
Yes.
when you should and all that. My husband went out there. He was watching your broadcast. He went out there, got them all clean. So now we're ready to go. But it's a great reminder.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the video contest?
Oh,
You
the
me
video
too.
content. Yeah, it's do that. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I know our customers do a good job because they've done such a good job with a calendar. I can't wait to see what everybody sends in. I said, don't worry about it being a super slick professional video. That's not what we're looking for at all. We're looking for just honest opinions from people and stories from people who actually feed Cole's birdseed in their yard. And those are the greatest stories.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
they
what we
are.
learn so much
everybody
from.
has their own unique way of getting there and what seed they like. And it might be a good time to, everyone can watch those videos and maybe we learn something from each other about like what kind of feed we ought to be using to solve certain problems. But, everybody's got their story, and we'd love to hear yours. And it just can be up to a minute and a half long. Shoot it on your cell phone, have your friend shoot it on the cell phone. And tell us about the products that you love about Kohl's and what you love about it and how you came to start using Kohl's. So thank you so much for joining us. It is time for us to wrap up, and we'll see you next first Wednesday of the month. So it'll be in March, and we hope you have a great one.
And looking forward to seeing your videos.
Absolutely.